space!
That was like the worst possible scenario. Like, I roll a 12th die and get my 6 out of that.
This is not the musical episode.
What do you think those are, Doc? Are they insects or something?
Game over, man. Game over.
Wow, guys.
Dang.
That was quite a season.
Oy vey.
And quite a system.
Quite insane.
I'm here with my Lafroig 10-year. And we are celebrating the end of Season 3 of the Gothic Podcast. All we've got left to do is this retrospective and our holiday horror specials. Keep an eye out on our Instagram and Twitter for times, and you can catch us streaming live on Twitch. I'd say that you could interact with us there, but we're really bad about reading our screens when we're doing stuff. But anyway, we'll try. Join us for those. We're going to be playing a couple of interesting games, some different stuff than we normally do. But tonight, we have reconvened all together one last time to look back on Season 3 and for the players to ask me why, oh why, oh,
Oh, why?
oh why.
Oh, why?
Oh, dear God, why?
Yes.
Why did we ever choose this system, for one thing?
What in the ever-loving...
Well, yeah, I'm always curious about, like, what your kind of decision-making process is behind, like, oh, I want to try this out, or oh, I want to do that for this season.
Yes, please.
On my board, on my cork board, whereon are pieces of index paper, sometimes actual just pieces rather than whole things, is a list of ideas for future seasons. And I knew I wanted to do space Gothic at some point, because that's part of the Gothic horror idea that we've sort of been exploring. And Alien is a Gothic horror story set in space. It's a haunted house story, for one, but it's got a lot of Gothic elements, too. Atmospheric stuff is what you think of mostly for Gothic, and man, Alien delivers on that.
Yeah.
So I was looking for something space-related, but then the Alien RPG came out right about the time I was thinking about it, and then there was just a no-brainer that, we had to give it a try. So picked up the book. Well, first of all, found out that it was reasonably rules light. So it wasn't something like super, super crunchy, but not as light as what we tend to like with Monster of the Week or Dead of Night, for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a real rough time with the Session 0.
Like, really just figuring out the rules.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'll talk a little bit about what I was worried about after Session 0 was in Session 0, our characters went into a big room, went into a hallway, saw an alien, and, one person made a panic roll, and then that panic roll was one of the other ones that makes everyone else also make a panic roll, and somebody else rolled a panic roll that makes everybody else roll a panic roll, and it just cascaded, and it was like, we saw one alien, and that's, that was the trigger that, caused this cascade, and so it just seemed unwinnable, but I was saying earlier, I don't know if Patrick will keep it in, but we seem to have got pretty lucky with our panic rolls throughout the course of the season, that very few of them were ones that raised everyone else's stress. And I think part of that was because we had multiple characters, we were able to skip around and have a little bit of time skip, and Patrick could say yeah, in the intervening hours you guys have had time to de-stress a little bit, and people's panic has stopped and stuff like that. So I think that we never really got into a cascading situation like that until the very, very end.
Yeah, and then once it starts,
it just keeps going. Yeah, so that happened in Session 0, from one
big
panic
snowball
roll.
effect.
And it's so fast. I mean, just reading through the book, I don't think we suspected how quickly that was all going to actually kick in. Right. And then when it did, it just seriously, in the course of one or two turns, you go from we're okay to we can do nothing.
We went straight from on the panic table that we roll for what panic effect. I think in Session 0 we went straight from 0 to a 12, where somebody screamed, and then everybody else had to increase panic or something, and it was right away.
Because most of the things that allow you to reduce panic, you can't do until you're out of the stressful situation. And even then, you can only reduce it by a few under normal circumstances.
Yeah, mostly one.
Well, the main thing that allows you to do that is command, and none of you really had command.
Well, because I think that none of us really realized that command was like the only thing that you could do to reduce. No, that's not true. Ray had like a medic-specific thing that allowed him to reduce panic, but...
Yeah, like Wild Bill had the banter.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could do something, but even those you had to do, like, if you could get somewhere where you're relatively safe for the moment.
Yeah, you had to be safe already, you know?
So it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you're listening to this, Sojourners, then hopefully you have listened to the season, because there are going to be some spoilers going on here.
Yeah, hey, listen to the season first.
Jules was sort of our lone survivor, and of course not. In fact, we might have been able to have some, epilogue cutaways. I decided not to, because that last episode is running something like 1 million hours long anyway. At least that's how long our recording of it took.
Yeah. If we're done with talking about the gaming system, I wanted to ask about Jules and the character of Jules, and like how early did you decide that she was going to be this like secret agent / involved in all of the parts?
Oh yeah. And was that like coordinated between the two of you?
Yeah.
It was immediate. When he first said he wanted to do Alien, and I think it maybe even come up, we were talking at the end of last season, I think when we were actually even maybe going into the retrospective, and Patrick's like, oh, by the way, just let you know, this is what it's going to be. He said Alien, and I kind of half jokingly, half seriously said, okay, I'm in as long as I can play Julia Childs.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he said, sure. Because I kind of thought Patrick would be like, no, you're not doing that. And then he said, yeah, sure. And I said, oh, well, then hell. Now we're doing Julia Childs and Alien. And, but that really was it. I mean, I know it's very on the nose as far as making that obvious. That's where the inspiration came from. Personally, I'm a huge fan of her anyway. I grew up watching her cooking show. My babysitter was not a particularly nice babysitter, but she would let me sit there and watch Julia Childs, and I still have that love of cooking today. And then, when I got older, I actually started reading up on her actual life. But she's a really cool character, and was actually, she did work for the OSS. She met her husband while essentially working as a spy. My favorite story is that the reason she got exposed to cooking, maybe not necessarily her inspiration, is because one of the projects she worked on was making shark repellent, because sharks were blowing up mines. And the research showed them that, there were organic methods that worked better. Basically, certain smells and spices would keep them away better than, say, anything they're coming up chemically. So they enlisted some chefs to come up with shark repellent, and she was one of the people heading up this project. That was one of her more prominent successes as a spy.
In answer to your other question, though, Sharon,
yeah,
no, Richard rolled with everything that I threw at him as far as Jules or any of the others go, but really Jules was the jewel of the game. And he did not know beforehand on most of it. The only thing that I gave him anything on at all was what Jules's memories were going on to the Pescado Malo.
Oh, wow.
I think that was the only thing that I gave to Jules.
We had a little bit of, I knew that she was the spy. I knew that was going to come out somehow. And honestly, the most of it, I was kind of, honestly, just BSing my way through to a certain degree. Until, what was it, episode 18, I think, before that? It was a couple days before then. It might have been 17. I have to go back and look at the dates on that. But I'm sitting watching, I think, an episode of She-Hulk with my wife, and my phone dings, and I look over, and it's Patrick. And I'm like, I glanced at the message, I realized it's kind of a wall of text. I'm like, okay, this episode gets over, I'm going to read it. And it was him filling me in with a lot of stuff. And I just had to sit there and digest it for a while, because we're going to watch more. And I'm like, okay, I need a minute.
Oh my gosh.
What's going on here? So it was kind of fun to just see all that and realize that that's where Patrick was going with this, even that late in the game.
I had a backup, by the way. Well, it wasn't a backup. It was the original idea that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And we just didn't have the time for it to play out. But this Jules wasn't supposed to be the same Jules that had been adventuring on the on Wednesday Station.
Oh.
All the Juleses were supposed to be clones. And so it's just a bunch of Jules clones.
Oh my god.
That makes so much more sense.
Final shot, just like a warehouse full of
Juleses.
Yeah,
they have a warehouse of Jules spies because this was such a good spy that they didn't dare risk her in any one operation.
Wait, that's too good. Let's go back and record the season again. let's go do that.
Well, it's not that it can't be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to have the two Juleses meet on Wednesday Station when you got there.
That would have been so funny. It's you.
Because they don't know they're clowns. You see.
Oh, man. No, I was thinking about it today, how funny it was that I picked a little old lady specifically because, like, nobody pays attention to little old ladies, and I thought that'd be funny for a criminal, and then, and you took it a completely opposite direction with a spy, you know?
So what was the full motivation for Maisie? Was it just you just thought it was funny, or did you have...
Yeah, no, the most developed characters were Patience and Ray, and I think I had originally, like, thought it would be funny to play, like, a sweet little old lady who was an ex-convict, and I didn't really have, like, a backstory for that, so she really was, like, the least developed character. I wrote that backstory, but, you know, it didn't really feel like she was, like, a person, until we got together in the same room and started bantering as Jules and Maisie. But, no, she was just supposed to be kind of like a con artist and, like transforming and looking older or, you know, moving faster or whatever and kind of skittering around. And I really didn't have an idea as to, like, who this person was, apart from just, like, irascible.
Well, technically, like with Powered by the Apocalypse games, weren't really supposed to have players playing the same playbooks.
Mm-hmm.
But Axel and Maisie both were the kid playbook.
Yeah, and part of why I picked that was I thought that was also funny. Like, it's the kid, but it's like a little old lady.
Jesse's expression is saying that he did not realize that they were both the same.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because one of the kids' talents was beneath notice, and it's like you have extra skills when, like, kind of observing from the shadows kind of thing. And that's what I expected to be doing, was, like, kind of skittering around, like, observing stuff, stealing stuff. And it didn't really happen that way because, you know, usually when you build a character, it's like you really have no idea what they're going to go through. But yeah, that beneath notice talent. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of funny. Like, so in Alien, your character, what playbook you pick comes with, like, stuff that you can pick. It's like this thing or that thing. And so Maisie ended up with, like, a fishing line and a magnet and, like, stuff that a kid would have. And I was just like, these are such random things.
What do I have in my pockets?
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of thing. Yeah.
How about Axel? I want to hear about Axel.
Oh, for Axel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I had the idea of Axel from, like, I don't know, if I was to, like, really split it down, the three different characters I picked were different aspects of LJ.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Richard really brought that out nicely in the White Room, in the, you know, blank pages there at the wrap up.
Yeah.
For you know, Red Winters.
Mm-hmm.
And that of course is the whole idea, that these are different personalities, aspects of yourselves. What were your three that you were really focusing on there then of LJ? What were the traits that you were seeing coming across?
For the Axel side, it was a lot more of the figure it out kind of thing. Just like trying to follow along in Dr. Grace's footsteps, you know, just trying to help figure the things out and trying to follow along with that. That was where Axel wanted to be. But he was just this kid. He was like the smart know-it-all kid, and I wasn't going to do him as a synthetic at first. I was just gonna do him as a kid, just a regular old kid on a space station. But I threw around the idea, and I know everybody's going to want to say, "Oh God, I thought Dr. Laura was going to be the robot."
Loved
the
Dr.
person
Laura.
who programmed my accent.
I do have to say, I think Dr. Laura was, up there in my top 3 of
favorites.
My favorite
yeah,
characters.
same.
3 of 9.
Yeah.
Being able to put some of the abilities on this kid, this supposed kid running around a space station was really intriguing. So I loved throwing that aspect into his character.
You guys had 9 characters total. 3 characters each you were juggling. Really 4 each if you count the occasional Monster of the Week, Contemporary Now Macon characters that we'd do. So this season you had 4 characters to juggle, 12 characters total for the game. How was that work? I thought you guys did great. I was so very happy to have you guys as a cast and able to roll with everything because once again, Sojourners, other actual play podcasts, they may go into a lot of this off-screen where they talk about where things are going and what's going to happen and some of the beats they want to hit. We don't do that. These guys take what I throw at them and they just roll with it.
And sometimes we freeze and be like,
That happened a couple of times in the finale.
But this time I threw a lot at you. So many characters. So how did you have any trouble with that? Or did it seem to flow okay or what?
Trouble is in, it was hard to keep track. I mentioned Jules earlier. She was the easiest one because she was the most different and had that, obviously that speech pattern. But I know with Wild Bill Hicks, I know my accent changed and the way I played him changed over time.
I've never had that problem.
Yeah. It'd be too much time in between and it wasn't as easy to come back to that one.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing I had trouble with was, when you sit down to play another session, I always like to reread what my notes were from last time. But, if we were going back to Wednesday Station and hadn't visited it in 2 sessions, sometimes I'd be like, where in the hell in my notes is the last time we were at Wednesday Station? And I could not find it. But I think that because the playbooks in Aelin, I feel like were relatively simple. If this was D&D, this would have been impossible.
Yeah. And there was a point there when, because, we did this in that order. So there in the final episode, there were 3 different versions of duels. So I had to track her 3 different stress, on my note sheet.
Right.
I had to delineate those out so I could track those separately. Which also the PDF flipping got a little complicated at times. We have to have a lot open, but it was manageable. But it was a lot of extra work at times.
It probably was significantly harder for you because I just had 3 different character sheets. And so if I was switching between characters, just tab over, and it wasn't too bad, but it was probably significantly harder trying to keep track of multiple versions of Jules.
Well, it was, and honestly, since we record every other week, and I have a couple other projects that I'm working on. Actually, I'm in the midst of 4 different projects of different various stages of production, and I honestly really did get to the point where I had a certain amount of mental fatigue, just trying to keep track of the tones of different things, and so I tried to really get in and have a little extra time before we record each one of these sessions. So I could just take a few minutes and try to get back into this headspace, for those characters. And like I said, so life lesson, that was too many projects at once.
Yeah.
For me, of course, we all had those wonderful, I did not remember my accent for this character. But then I had the one episode with Axel where I couldn't keep the specific English region accent nailed down. I love stuff like this though, where you're trying to flip back and forth between the different characterizations. Mm-hmm. It's fun. Just
it's kind of a challenge, yeah.
Taking on the different personality and the different speech and stuff like that was a lot of fun, and I liked being able to juggle that.
And you do great with it, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm always in awe of your ability, even though sometimes I hear you have to kind of like, when we're getting ready to record, work your way back into those accents. But listening to you,
I had phrases written down for each of the characters that I would like a mantra kind of thing where I would repeat them so that I could get into the character.
I had that for Mother Voice. I did that too.
Listening to you get into that, I was always in awe. It was always kind of fun to even just sit here and listen to you do that.
Yeah, you had 3 really distinctive voices this time, so that was...
Oh my god, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
Every season I've tried to design it so that we were doing something experimental. I mean, I don't want us just to be...
Yeah, we sure were.
I don't want us to just be taking this game, and just doing it like everybody else might. Or like you might, even in a home game, because...
We're not like other podcasts.
We're not like other podcasts. No, I thought we needed to, be somehow different. We needed to stretch. And it isn't all just for the doing of it. There are plot reasons for this, as we learned to an extent in the White Pages part of this last episode. But it also just seemed right. You said something along the lines of it would have gone too fast if we had just had the one story.
Oh yeah. No,
we would have cascaded too soon.
Yeah, we would have cascaded too soon. And then you would have had to like hand to God, like save us from that situation, and that wouldn't have, played well.
Well, and I do have to commend Patrick not only for weaving those 3 together, but I'm one of the old school gamers. I've been gaming for a very long time, and when you do, you kind of pick up on not only just tendencies, but there's a lot of tropes and a lot of things that get recycled. And I'm kind of in the category of sometimes the I've seen it all kind of guy. And even Patrick, we used to live much closer and game more together. So a lot of times I'm pretty good at having a feel for and guessing where's this all going. And I honestly, there's so many times I'm like, I have no idea. Patrick's got me completely bumfuzzled here, and I have no clue what's going on. But it's fun. It was great. It's just that, so. Kudos to you for being able to do that.
Well, but also, in the moment I had no idea where this was going. But listening back, I actually, yesterday, I started over from the beginning of the season and started listening over again. And, every time I go back and listen to an older episode and I hear Patrick say something that I'm like, we're now dealing with the consequences of this thing that he set up 8 episodes ago. It's just like a jolt, like, oh my god, like that thing, that guy.
If only I kept notes.
That place.
Yeah.
The timeline that everybody was always wondering, well, not always wondering about, but when was it that you guys, it was like Jesse had a moment where he was like, oh, I realize how this timeline is coming together. They're not all happening at the same time.
No, and I realized that part early on, but I didn't realize that they weren't in the correct order. I realized it was like time jumps, but I didn't realize that some of them were jumped before other ones that I didn't realize which order they came in.
I think there was a real early reference to troops from the Wapiti being on the station.
Yeah.
Then it became a guessing game of like, okay, which comes first, the Wednesday station or the Wapiti? And
I almost hate to admit here that, it was supposed to be slightly different. Trakai first, then Wednesday Station, then Pescado Malo.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so on the vein of things that didn't pick up on, I don't know, we were probably episode 8, 9, somewhere in the neighborhood, before it occurred to me that Wednesday Station was just simply because we record on Wednesday night.
See, that occurred to me like 2 days ago.
I was just like, I wonder why I picked Wednesday Station as I'm setting my stuff up, getting ready to record. And I'm like, oh, look, it's Wednesday. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Sojourner Unlimited. So.
No, that was obvious, but I guess I've just read enough, books with, people with names like Thursday, that I've just accepted. Okay.
There was just, so much stuff that I wanted to, that was there that I wanted to get across, and it just didn't come up, or we didn't have time, or there were just so many, I think, moments that would have been moments. And it's, I always, whenever I move on past them, it's a bit sad for me, but I hope that what comes across is fully functional anyway.
Yeah. I mean, well, we all have that too, right? Like, I think there were moments that I wanted to have with other characters, and I'm sure that you guys also had moments like that where you're like, I really want this kind of moment of, I want to hit this beat with this character or that beat with that character, and triple that in this season.
Yeah, there's a beautiful scene that I'm currently thinking of, and I wanted it so badly because it made so much sense after everything that happened, but I just could not get any of you to go to the ziggurat and face off against Chaucer.
I was trying because I thought that's where.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Chaucer was
the only person who. Yeah, he was there. The only person who actually was face to face with the ziggurat in any kind of time to be able to have done that was Maisie, who's at heart just out for her own self-preservation and trying to flee a bad situation. So, and I think that maybe I wanted to go see what was in the ziggurat, and a certain other character in a long-running D&D campaign of Patrick's and mine would have done that, but not Maisie, because that's not who she is. So,
and we did run into that because I don't know how many times we'd be recording, and Patrick's like, all right, we're going to start out with Pescado Malo. So let's get about 20, 30 minutes of that. And then an hour and a half later,
right?
We're like, okay, guys, we really got to move on past Pescado Malo.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, crap.
You can tell Patrick at some point was just like, okay, fine. I guess we're just doing one section for one episode.
The original concept was
you wanted to hit all three in every episode, right?
Every time, because I thought that we'd lose the rhythm of it. And in fact, what was going to happen was that was going to lose the rhythm of it. Yeah, and we needed to do the full immersion in each one as we went along. Mm-hmm.
Because you realized we could do full episodes of just Jules and Maisie digging at each other.
Just talking about cooking.
Well,
I hope everybody loves the little old ladies too.
I think the thing that we get in trouble with is that the shorter and shorter time you spend with a character, it's like, okay, and you have part of one conversation, let's cut away, come back, still the same conversation, and so it's we would have been having to do time skips, but that would have felt thinner,
Instead, it was just Maisie and Jules walking down hallways.
Just walking down hallways. That's all they did.
Remember that time we blew up the station?
Remember that time we walked down that hallway? And then that thing happened? Wasn't that exciting?
There could be one whole retrospective of just Maisie and Jules.
Maybe Maisie's really a clone spy as well, and they'll meet up somewhere else.
She's like, joke's on you, I'll live on.
But I loved the others. I mean, the three different aspects of this season, I think you put together really well, Patrick. I loved you had a planetary aspect, you had a waypoint, a station, and then you also had the travelers. That was a lot of fun to be in those three different situations.
I didn't want to revisit this in a future season, the space thing, and so I wanted to hit the tropes of space horror, and that was another reason for doing the three on a mechanical level, was to get those different settings expressed.
Space is a big genre.
I really like Trakai. I know we used it for the session 0 in a slightly different form.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't leave it behind because that whole layered Fabergé egg looking, thing was fascinating. Right.
Well, and part of Ray exclaiming over how cool everything was just Ray being himself, but also it was legitimately like, oh my god, this is such a great visual. Imagine how awesome that would look to see a forested arch with a waterfall coming down off it.
If only I could given you great visuals for the interiors of spaceships or the interior of the space station.
I had a good visual on the inside of the space station. I felt like, some of the points where you go from part to part of the space station were hard to visualize because mechanically that's complicated. But no, I thought the space station made sense.
Yeah, I still don't know quite how the spinning rings and the, elevator from the non-spinning main strut works. But hey, I blew that up, so...
Yeah. So, excuse me, Jules blew it up? No, the reason in the finale when the outer rings all detached, I was like slapping my forehead because I was like, we were trying to blow up the station to like stop these things from spreading further out in the galaxy. And they're like canonically out in the rings already. Like we might get the nest, but they're still gonna spread. And I was just like, oh no, this has all been futile.
There's a lot of futility in this season in the end.
Yeah. Kind
of a downer in a way, although I feel pretty satisfied with it, but yet it wasn't an exactly upbeat ending.
Well, I mean, look at Alien, right? Like,
that's why I wanted to have 9 characters in this season so that I could kill most of them.
Well, I mean, that is what happened with Jules, because I never really kind of thought it was going to go exactly that way. But then within all of a sudden the last few episodes, she went from, I'm figuring out a mystery to, well, I guess I'll just kill everyone.
Oh, this is the easiest solution. I'll just vent the ship into the vacuum. Good night. Yeah, that was such a the moment you're like, can I just kick out Wild Bill? And it's like, I knew we were all thinking it, but it's just like, oh man.
Of course, we do this visually so that we can see each other when we're recording. And I saw Sharon's face when I started blowing the those connector rings that connected the outer rings to the main thing.
Oh, and no.
I don't know. Did I also see on your face the remembrance of when I described those explosives, like in the second episode or something?
Yeah, you described those at the very beginning, that they were designed to blow in case of emergency. And we had just gone on this amazing and epic, suicide mission to get rid of this colony of these things. And it's just all going to be for naught, because these rings are going to go floating away, and at least one of them is infested with aliens in it. So,
At least one.
And then there's the loose thread, too, of Jin Kaje. We never caught up with that dude.
There's a few loose strings. We can discuss them. Of course, it's non-canon because it didn't happen in the story.
Right.
Can I ask, what did you intend to happen with Jin Kaje?
Jin Kaje, Luther Winscombe, and the Captain Moses Franks were all Chris Luther.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and then had this great scene where very likely the Wednesday station is falling out of orbit because it's been destabilized, and it's falling toward the planet as the Pescado Malo shows up, and the remaining crew of the Pescado Malo goes onto Wednesday station and encounter whatever's left of themselves, avatar-wise.
Yeah.
And you get into the ziggurat and you find that the primary source of the growths of the queen, essentially, of this whole hive is the remnants of Dr. Laura.
Oh.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been so cool, wouldn't it? But
whoa. I am the queen of the xenomorphs. Dang. What made you decide, Patrick, to do Predator as an ally? Because I fully expected to be just taken out immediately.
Predator 2.
Okay.
And to a certain extent, that Alien versus Predator where they're in the Arctic, is that the first one? Where our protagonist, where she kind of teams up with the Predator in order to, fight their way through the aliens, through the xenomorphs that are in the under ice ziggurat. So there's some of that influence to it. There was also, I just had to get the Predators in there somewhere. And so it's left kind of open, and that was meant to be, even in my own mind, to a certain extent, open as to whether Trakai was built by the engineers, which in alien lore are the ancients who, essentially seeded life everywhere.
Prometheus.
Or if it was a hunting planet created by the Predator race.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I wanted to leave that kind of up in the air. You can make your own decisions there.
I thought about it and I was like, ooh, I wonder if he's going to throw any Blade Runner aspects into it, because Blade Runner is part of that same canon, in that same world as well.
Yeah, I've heard that Blade Runner is connected. I can see it. I'm not sure how much I want to embrace that.
Yeah, it's really odd. Anyway,
I don't want Decker fighting a predator.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can always just go the other way with it now if they're, with the new movie Prey, where it's just predators through history.
Yeah.
No, it always should have been. That was, it was implied in Predator, that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a great concept.
And then, of course, Predator 2, and now we're getting into movie trivia here, but of course, the whole Alien versus Predator franchise happened because they needed some skulls for the Predator ship in Predator 2. So when he goes in, there's a display case with a bunch of skulls, and they just pulled a bunch of skulls out of the prop department, and one of them was an alien skull, a xenomorph skull from Alien. And so then this whole history started building, including a very good set of comics.
I know one thing that we mentioned the other day that I wanted to go ahead and bring up is the idea of the death that Patrick owed me.
Oh, yeah.
Because, when I came on with season 2, I wasn't supposed to be a regular initially.
Not even for the whole season, right?
No.
You were going to be...
No, he was like a 2-episode. He was supposed to be the beloved character who gets killed early on and makes everybody else feel bad.
He just asked me to do a guest appearance. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And we kind of talked it out. And, that was supposed to be the idea, is that you guys weren't going to know that. And then when I die quickly, it's just a shock.
Mm-hmm.
And then through a series of events, it ended up not happening. And by the time we got to recording very quickly, it wasn't the case. So Patrick's like, hey, can you just stick around? So then the character didn't die. We did that whole season 2. And then at the end of that, he's like, hey, you want to stick around and do a little more? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem.
If I can be Julia Child.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then we get all the way to the end. And, he texted me about the whole thing with Red Winters. He gave me some options to where we go with that. And I said, I got to go with the death because you owe me. A tragic death of a character, and then that's how it kind of came full circle in that way. That was the kind of because you guys gasped when that happened. And I'm like, that was supposed to be that moment. It's just came at the end of the very next season and not the beginning of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that other thing that we were talking about earlier too, where you guys you guys got trained so much to not make any sounds on the video, and yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love seeing the faces though when we're all just like,
I know. Yeah, it's I actually am deliberately trying to react now, because now I feel like I can tell when Patrick wants us to react to something, and so I'm trying to start being reactive again, but at the appropriate times.
Yeah, I don't mind you having reactions to things. I mind squeaky chairs while you're talking, or playing with your rat while you're whispering.
Dogs barking in the background. Oh, the fun of recording.
I discovered in season 1 that I apparently have the superpower of being able to sit in one position without moving my chair at all for up to 2 hours at a time.
Okay, but you also have a way better microphone than multiple of us, so your microphone's probably more protected from your chair.
The microphone that I used for season 1 was the same one that Jesse used for season 2,
That's
and
fair.
a lot of this season 3, until he borrowed my my Yeti.
Yeah, I remember the headset.
Well, we're not going to revisit this, so if you have any questions or anything you wanted to delve into...
I want to dig into everyone's decisions about everyone's characters, but I know that that's not
Well, yeah, so Sojourner, Sharon always has a lengthy backstory for her characters, even if it's just in her head.
You literally asked me to write a backstory for these guys.
And that's I mentioned earlier that I've been gaming for a long time, and I know it's great that there's so many new voices in the hobby. I really do love it. But there are some tendencies that you kind of notice over time. And because we all start out as the 20-page backstory page person. That's the natural progression. And then after you get a couple decades under your belt, you get to the, all right, just hurt me. You're like, I'm not going to try to wrap this all up in a nice little bow. Here's a bunch of hooks for you to use and just beat me up with it.
No, and I think part of what it is like for the improv nature of this type of storytelling, I want to be able to have answers and react on the spot, and I feel like I can't do that if I don't have anything in mind in the background, because I just freeze. So anyway, that's where that comes from, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
No.
Yeah, no. And for me, a lot of it is just kind of like really latching on to how is this person going to react, and thinking of was there something, and it doesn't even have to be that like explicit,
right,
like recalling all of the events, because sometimes that's fun to bring out in the story, to like create that on the spot. So I love doing stuff like that. But to just have like the basic emotions of the person and how they would react, totally. That's mostly what I go for when I play these characters.
I'm trying to think of some things that you threw out there or that happened that just, made the story go in a different way than it might have otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time, yeah, but a lot of it what I'm thinking of initially here is, tapping into Axel's memories.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of those I was having to go like, okay, I don't, okay, well, here's what it is. Here's what your memory was. And then I say it and I'm like, oh, well, crap. That means that happened now.
Yeah.
Now, how does that match up with this other stuff?
How does that fit the rest of the story?
And I guess Jules was there too.
Yeah.
And Jules was there too.
Because, the early episodes, Jules, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Jules was walking around somebody who she knows. And like, I didn't know that at all.
Well, that totally... Like I said, when I went back and I'm re-listening to the very first episodes yesterday, and we have this scene where we see the Marines fighting these aliens in Axel's memories, and I'm like, oh my god, Jules is sitting there watching this like, oh dang, like, this isn't supposed to come up. But also I was like, okay, what kind of military ship was like, let's bring this 14-year-old looking robot on our ship?
Experimental model.
Yeah.
Well, there was another one. I mean, what was going to happen to Wild Bill?
Yeah.
I did not have any idea. I mean, of course not. I mean, because you might have put him in a cryo chamber. You might have let him go for one more round when the, when the chest burster would have come out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the Wapiti was the primary source of all of the alien outbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the only, because... Wednesday Station had sent a prior expedition to Trakai and come back with some things, and that's what had been being studied by Dr. Chauncey.
Mm-hmm.
Spies for Cain Lazarus figured that out and sent another, Cain Lazarus sent an expedition to Trakai to figure out what it was that Sojourner Unlimited was interested in there. While also simultaneously sending Jules to infiltrate Sojourner and find out what was happening.
That's kind of one of the things that having three characters like that I got a little bit messed up with was like, wait, which corporation is this? And like, what are their interests? And like, wait, who is Jules working for again? But I mean, that was partially intentional also. But
and it was a little weird for you all to be working for Cain Lazarus. But no more weird than you to be related to Lazarus Cain in season 2.
Yeah, uh-huh.
What does it all mean? Does it mean anything? Who knows?
Nothing really matters.
Find out next time.
Well, 2 more seasons is what we have planned here for this storyline.
5-year mission.
For this 5-year mission that we have. And next season, we're going to be, we announced it last time at the end of the white pages, that we would be playing City of Mist next time. Speaking of possible derailments, holy crap, the rift was there I knew that we were going to be playing City of Mist next time. We talked about City of Mist. I say that there's the tower, but before that, there's this city.
There's a city.
And then Jesse for LJ rolls a 7 to 9, and I have to give him options. And one of those options is you go somewhere that isn't that place beyond the rift. And it's like, if he chooses that, we've got to go with a whole different game system next time. And I put it out there, and I mean, it was there. He could have bitten. I thought he wouldn't. I thought he would go for one of the others, but I wasn't sure of it. It could have gone weird. Could have been weird, man.
Getting weird.
Oh, man. It looks cool. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to be doing City of Mist next time. City of Mist is kind of cool in that you play characters who have everyday lives. It's a noir world, so they might have noir lives like private investigators or such. They're awakening to this embodiment of legendary, mythical, fairy tale characters that are bubbling up within them, that want to make their stories known in the city. And so, it's kind of a split personality thing, but it's all going to be one. I'm giving you this right now. This is your bone. One timeline, one storyline, one plot, all the way through. There are some twists I have planned, but the timeline and setting and the plot line itself are not in weird order or multiple settings that are somehow completely separate yet attached to one another. And we will be saying goodbye to Richard. We're saying goodbye to Richard tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have very much appreciated Richard being here, running characters for 2 seasons when he expected to be here for 3 episodes tops.
Same, for sure.
And so we raise our glasses to you, good sir. May your ventures in your own podcast
be ever in your favor.
Be ever in your favor. So I think we've come to the point in the retrospective that our listeners are probably tired of listening to us blither on.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you.
So, projects. Well, Richard is going on to a few. What have you got coming up?
You know, that's one of the things that Patrick and I get to discuss is also the production side of things, since we're both involved in that as well. So we have a lot coming up for next year that I'm super excited about. The first is we are venturing into the Lancer game system. I like big stompy robots, and it's a fun system if you haven't checked it out. So that's a project that we actually just wrapped on recording, but still have the production to do. I'm also really excited because I love adding in sound effects, and stompy robots just give so many great opportunities for sound effects. We got a local person who recorded some metal riffs for us, so we can have like the anime metal riffs happening at certain times. So we're really going to dig into that and try to do some creative things on the production end as well. So that's something that I'm deep in the middle of at the moment, but also really excited to see how it all comes out.
Is that all going to be under the Adventurers Vault?
It is, yeah. We released it all under the same umbrella.
Anybody else have anything coming up? Jesse, you got any live stuff happening soon?
Oh, yeah. Pretty much all of December.
If we're lucky, this retrospective will be edited and out by December, so...
Yeah, the first 2 weekends of December, Torch Song Theater Company is doing a holiday version of their Villains and Vixens show.
Oh, how fun.
Which I've done in the past. And then my Kaleido Sound, my a cappella group, will be doing a couple of performances in December as well. And I also got an offer to do some caroling around Bridgeport Village for the holiday season as well.
That's great.
Awesome. It's another one of my disappointments, that being so far away that I don't ever get a chance to go out and check out any of those things.
Yeah.
Well, you still need to come out and we can get on the train and do an episode,
a one-shot on the train.
An episode from the train.
Yeah.
The Jules and Maisie show.
Yeah.
Take the train out to Missouri. Go to Macon.
I kind of regret not having done a bit of recording from
Macon
on site at the At the house.
At the house.
At the house.
Oh,
I guess that's going to wrap up our retrospective.
man.
Thanks for listening, Sojourners. We do very much appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Check out all of our cool stuff. We're still always looking for awesome fan art.
Yeah. Oh, man. If I don't see any Trukai fan art, I will be so disappointed.
Well, that is us signing off until our holiday horror specials, where we might actually get to see Richard one more time.
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do keep an eye on our Twitter and Instagram. Announcements will be going out as to when the live feeds will happen for sure and for certain. Thanks for joining us in the dark, Sojourners. Until the next Gothic Podcast.
Oh, I love you all.
The Gothic Podcast is a humor and horror actual play podcast produced by C. Patrick Neagle, starring C. Patrick Neagle, Sharon Gollery-Lafournese, Jesse Baldwin, and Richard Southard. Season 3 of the Gothic Podcast uses rules from the Alien RPG, produced by Free League Publishing, and Monster of the Week, written by Michael Sands and published by Evil Hat Productions. Theme music is by Zoe Hovland and original artwork by Jared George Art. If you enjoy the Gothic Podcast, please like, rate, and review us on iTunes. Visit our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram feeds, and check out our Patreon page. Thanks!